The regular meeting of the Town Council for May 6, 2024 to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, will you do the roll call, please?
Here. Here. Here.
Yeah.
Here.
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 Here. Here.
Here.
Recognition.
Yes, good evening, Madam Chairwoman. I'd like to read a proclamation from the Town Council for Older Americans Month 2024. Whereas May is Older Americans Month, a time for us to recognize and honor Watertown older adults and their immense influence on every facet of American society. And whereas through their wealth of life experience and wisdom, older adults guide our younger generations and carry forward abundant cultural and historical knowledge. And whereas older Americans improve our communities through intergenerational relationships, community service, civic engagement, and many other activities. Whereas communities benefit when people of all ages, abilities, and backgrounds have the opportunity to participate and live independently. Whereas Watertown must ensure that older Americans have the resources and support needed to stay involved in their communities, reflecting our commitment to inclusivity and connectedness. And now, therefore, the Watertown Town Council does hereby proclaim May 2024 as Older Americans Month. This year's theme, Powered by Connection, emphasizes the profound impact of meaningful interactions and social connections on the well-being and health of older adults in our community. We call upon all residents to join in recognizing the contributions of our older citizens in promoting programs and activities that foster connection, inclusion, and support for older adults. Dated at Watertown, Connecticut, the 6th day of May, 2024. Signed, Mary Ann Rosa, Watertown Town Council Chairman. Thank you.
Wait. Yeah, but that's all right.
What is it? I didn't even look.
She's going to get a picture.
What is it? C?
Do we have a motion for the minutes, please?
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of the April 15th, 2024 regular meeting.
Do we have a second? Any corrections?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I have an addition on the last page under public participation. Mr. Mickles' comment section, he asked a few questions, and during the meeting, one of them was answered. It was, let me see. Mr. Mickle asked if there has been any discussion on how you came up with your vote tonight. There was a caucus done by the Republican Party to stick with the $800,000, and if the financial subcommittee should have been included, and that was confirmed.
So what are you adding?
The confirmation, the response.
Okay. Anyone else? All those in favor of the minutes as corrected?
Aye.
Anyone abstaining? The motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the April 15th, 2024 special town meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections to these? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining? Motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the April 11th, 2024 budget public hearing minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any corrections or comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining? The motion passes unanimously. Under the chairman's report, I would like to acknowledge a letter from Mr. Peter King relative to a legal matter. I'd like to acknowledge 60-plus emails from various Catholic school families relative to the budget cuts that were made to the nurse out of the Board of Ed budget. And I would like to read to you an email that came from the Jameson Pub relative to a ribbon-cutting ceremony. With great honor and partnership with the Watertown Oakville Chamber, we are cordially being invited to attend a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Jameson Pub located at 675 Main Street on May 10th between 3:30 and 5:30 p.m. So anyone that would like to go, certainly feel free. Do we have any subcommittee reports? Has there been any? No public works or none? Okay. Town managers report?
Yes, Madam Chairwoman and members of the Town Council, just like to update you on a few things that have occurred over the last few weeks. Emergency Management Director has been hired. I'm pleased to announce that David Hart, a member of the Watertown Fire Department, has been appointed as Watertown's new Emergency Management Director. Mr. Hart previously held the position of EMD before Chief Bromley assumed the role. With this transition, there will be some operational changes to the structure, and notably, the Police Department will designate a liaison to aid in training and serve as a conduit for information sharing. Additionally, Mr. Hart will lead a state tabletop exercise scheduled for June of this year. These adjustments aim to enhance coordination and preparedness within our emergency management framework. I'd like to welcome Mr. Hart back to this role, and I hope that he continues to do the work as he did earlier when he had this position. On April 23rd, 2024, myself and Mr. Lukowski attended the Connecticut Emergency Management Symposium. We took back a lot of information that's been shared with other departments. On April 26, 2024, I'm pleased to inform you that the Freedom of Information training session was very successful, and we had an exceptional turnout, resulting in engaging discussions and numerous inquiries. I extend my gratitude to Russell Bleer from the State of Connecticut Freedom of Information Commission for generously sharing his expertise with the participants. Furthermore, our efforts are underway to solicit feedback from department heads regarding the updated FOI policy and procedure, and then we'll implement that and put it in place. On the agenda tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about our audit, just to give you, because it'll be in line with kind of me giving you an update for the finance department. The audit is, we're asking you to approve the appointment of King & King for the audit for this upcoming year. This is per statute, we need to appoint an auditor, and we're not in a position to make any changes at that point. I did clarify with the state that as we move through transitioning through some of the changes in our finance department, we can make a change if we chose to in the future, but we need to appoint an auditor by the end of June. I just want to talk through some of the finance strategy, how we're going to move forward with the retirement or the separation of our assistant finance director and the imminent retirement of our finance director. I'd like to outline some of the key items and actions that need to be addressed to ensure a smooth transition and enhance our finance department's effectiveness. So we've already rewrote the job descriptions. We made a posting for both the finance director and the assistant finance director. We have scheduled interviews for our assistant finance director. We've had, I believe, 5 applicants for that position. So because Megan has already left that role, we'd like to try and put somebody in place as soon as possible. So we have established a schedule for interviews on May 9th. The interview panel will be Councilmember Mr. Ramsey. We've asked Marika Shuba from the Board of Education and Mr. DeStasio, who was the past Board of Education business manager, who is now the finance director in Avon, to sit on that panel. Questions have? That would be it. We've developed the questions. We actually are going to send the questions because we have such a qualified board. We're going to send the questions back out to the board to kind of peruse those questions and then give us feedback before we set those in stone. In addition, as I started to look out for an accounting firm to come out and review our accounting policy and procedures manual, I've reached out to several firms who are putting a quote together for us to understand what the actual cost would be to go through that. I'm weighing together whether we wait for a finance director to come into place before we make this review policy, and I think I'm just going to have to make that decision as we evaluate who applies for that job, that position. In addition, I think it's a good time for us to review our procurement policy. I will include that in the proposals. We've also evaluated and come to understand that maybe we should invest some more time and training into the software. Instead of just moving to a new software, maybe we'll evaluate the software that's in place, do additional training, and then reevaluate. That'll give the new finance director time to get seated and understand the process before we make that change. A lot of the responsibility will be on that new person to facilitate that change, so they should be part of that decision. We've considered some temporary staffing if we can't find somebody to put in either one of these places. As you know, our current finance director has agreed to stay on if we choose to have that happen, and I believe that that would be in our best interest to have proper succession informational person in place. So we would want to do that. And we've identified some firms that could actually provide staff members that know how to use our Infinite Vision software, so that if we get stuck without filling the assistant finance director, we do have sources to go out to bring staff in to continue allowing us to work properly. We will also explore improving our chart of accounts. We've mentioned several times that we have a lot of line items there, and we just need to do a quick review, maybe not a quick review, a more in-depth review of our chart of accounts and understanding how everything is working together. This will be all part of the evaluation as we move forward. And that will also include all our special funds for us to establish if we have best business practice for the way we're running the town. And then there's just some small review items that I think would be important. A reporting schedule for key stakeholders, department heads, the town manager's position, and if we were to include the quarterly reports to town council members so that you could be more in line with what's happening on a regular basis. We will review our financial statements, inventory control and tracking assignment of property. I think that's something we have to kind of work a little better to improve that area. Assignment of auditors will also be part of the conversation, as we already said. And then we will further look into more training, whether we do it in-house or we bring in somebody from Infinite Visions to do the training for us. We'll look into that and evaluate as we move forward. Two last things, and I promise to finish, maybe three things. Our bonding 2023, we went back to our bonding agent. We've established some bands that we took out last year. So we have to go out to bonding again this year to finish up the bonding that went to referendum in 2023, and that'll happen over the next couple of months. It'll get us the final amount of money for road pavement and, was there something? And the fire truck and whatever was left for the schools. The banding will then become bonds, and we'll finish that project. And then something very interesting as we were talking with our bonding agent, Barry, is that we have a significant amount of debt service which will be dropping off in the next 5 to 7 years, which will free up probably $55 to $60 million that will give us an opportunity to take care of a lot of the infrastructure needs that have been put off. So my suggestion to the council is that we start to at least discuss how we're going to manage that over the next few months so that we could have a plan in place to hopefully go to referendum with a full plan. There is enough money there to hit the bigger projects, police department, a community center, hopefully a public works department, and then a significant amount of roadway and sidewalks that we could accomplish with that money. So I just want to put that on your radar so we could start those discussions to move forward. And then the only last item is that I ask that you consider adding to the agenda tonight to discuss the police communications department. We're at a critical juncture for the way that department is staffed. The chief is prepared to give some information to you for us to kind of discuss how to handle and move forward and keep our communications running. Obviously, it's a very important department, and I think the chief will give you the information needed to help us make a decision on how to move forward with that. And that's all I have for you.
Okay. Under new business, items to add.
Yep. I have a couple of items that we're going to be adding to the agenda. The first one, I move that the following item be added to the agenda for tonight's meeting. It would be item I, discussion and possible action on staffing levels at the Watertown Police Communications Department.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
The addition passes unanimously.
The second item is going to be added under item 10, executive session. I move to add to the agenda under executive session discussion regarding pending litigation, City of Waterbury versus the Town of Watertown.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second to add. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Let's move on to 9A.
I move to approve the resolution in support of the $2 million grant application to the State of Connecticut Department of Housing to undertake a small cities community development program and authorize the execution of an associated assistant agreement.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. This is the result of the hearing we just held. Anyone have any comments? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
I move to authorize an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $1,315.55 for police overtime, funds received from the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation for distracted driving and high visibility enforcement.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining or opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes unanimously.
Go ahead, Herm, you could do that one.
Go ahead.
Herm likes to do the police stuff.
Well, you better do it because he's not.
You want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Second.
I move to authorize an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $1,934.72 for police overtime. Funds received for participation in the State Department Emergency Services and Public Protection Statewide Violent Crime Task Force.
We have a second. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Comments? If I may, through the chair,
Yes.
recently there was a homicide in Waterbury outside of the courthouse, as we've all followed in the media. Playing a vital part in identifying 3 subjects who ultimately were arrested were the Violent Crime Task Force, of which Watertown is a participatory member, and along with the Waterbury Detective Bureau, They hopefully will bring this visible, high visible murder, which has been described as being a quote hit, end of quote hit, to successful closure. Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? The motion passes unanimously.
I move to authorize an appropriation from the general fund in the amount of $13,485.16 for police overtime. Is this right? Funds received, I'm not sure this is right.
Yeah, it is. Go
Didn't
ahead.
we just do that?
No.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, funds received from the State of Connecticut Department of Transportation for a rural road speed grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comment? Seeing none.
Through the chair. In reviewing the recent report from the department regarding motor vehicle enforcement is applicable to this grant and future grants, there's been a significant increase on a monthly basis in motor vehicle stops, the amount of infractions issued, misdemeanor summons, and so forth. Thank you.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone abstaining or opposed? The motion passes unanimously.
I move to approve the resolution appointing King and Associates as auditors for the fiscal year 23-24 audits.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mark explained to us that we're making this appointment now in order to conform to the time frame that we have to do it in. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? Motion passes unanimously.
I move to waive the policy for the sale of real property regarding town-owned land located on Georgetown Drive as recorded in Watertown Land Records in Book 536, page 128, identified as right-of-way, third piece between Lot 14 and Lot 15.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Attorney Jessel, would you like to address this for us?
Can you hear me now?
Can hear you.
So in 1988, as part of the Georgetown Heights subdivision, if you look at the map that I included with my memo, they included a right-of-way between two lots that goes to some property that's located in Waterbury. The purpose of that right-of-way was to make sure that that property was not landlocked, which is against a public policy. Someone has come along, they're going to buy that lot, they've gotten approval to build two houses, and they want to purchase the right-of-way, which I think is in the best interest of the town of Watertown. The reason I think it's in our best interest is that we don't have any further liability with regard to this. This becomes their problem entirely. They'll build a common driveway. They've agreed to put trees and buffering between lots 14 and 15. As you can see from the drawing that's attached as the last piece of the handout that I gave you. They've offered $5,000 for this lot. I've spoken with the town assessor. It's a 9,000 square foot piece of property that's not useful for anything in terms of building a house or building anything else. We collectively thought that the property was probably worth, an acre of property like this would be worth about $10,000. 25% of that, an acre is 43,300 square feet. This is a 9,000 square foot piece, so it's less than 25%. So it would be actually worth about $2,500. They've agreed to pay $5,000. We had some people suggest that maybe the abutters would like to buy this property. It would not save them anything because these people by statute would still have a right to use this property as a right-of-way to that Waterbury piece. Again, public policy does not favor creating landlocked parcels. Insofar as the first motion, which is to waive the policy, there are two things that come to bear on this. First is a state statute, 7-163, I'm sorry, I don't know them by heart, 163E, which is entitled Public Hearing for Sale of Town Land. That statute specifically, by its terms, does not apply to a sale price of less than $10,000. At the same time, the town of Watertown Town Council adopted a policy, not an ordinance, but a policy about the sale of town land, and they did not include any exemption for smaller pieces. But because it's a town policy as opposed to an ordinance, the council has the right to waive the requirement of having a public hearing. And I really don't think there is anyone else who could profit by buying this property. So, I'm not, excuse me, I'm not thinking that there is a real reason for us to hold a public hearing or do extra work on this. It's, again, a very small piece. It's going to be a driveway. They're not even using our water and sewer because the city of Waterbury would not allow them to hook up to our water and sewer in Georgetown Drive. Beyond that, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent of water and sewer told me that they didn't think they could adequately serve this property because they don't have sufficient pressures to get there. In addition to the slopes, it actually would have to pump the sewer to the sewer line. So it's not effective. It's cheaper to do septic and well than it is to do water and sewer. I don't know if there are any questions about this.
I do.
Yes.
On this lot, how many proposed building lots are there?
There's 2 houses proposed, and I've attached to the end of this a picture of where they anticipate putting the houses. The house that's closest to a property line is some 60-plus feet away from the property line. So based on where the house is on that other property, it's probably 110 or so feet away from a house located in Watertown. And again, they did agree to put some buffering between the driveway and the 2 abutting houses.
And the houses will be in Waterbury.
The houses will be in Waterbury.
Right.
The children will go to Waterbury schools. I did talk to the chief of police. We may end up doing some emergency services there, but it's not going to be a major issue. It's 2 houses.
Anyone else have a question?
Through the chair.
Sure.
Is there a way to enforce the homeowners to put up those buffers?
Although I kind of made a mistake and didn't include it in the motion, I'd like to include in the motion that the buffering, that the driveway be done in accordance with the drawing that they provided us as a condition. There are other conditions as well. But I think that we should include that as a condition in the motion.
In this motion or the next?
I'm sorry? The next motion,
The next.
sorry.
Okay, but so what would be the enforcement? How would it be enforced? Like, say they didn't, like, we don't want to spend the money.
We'll go in and do a cease and desist because they will have violated their agreement with the town of Watertown.
Okay,
It's
Okay.
going to be a condition in the deed.
okay. And I'm assuming then all the construction equipment will be passing down this right away?
That's true.
Okay, and the homeowners on either side are aware of all of this?
They actually attended the public hearings in Waterbury. This developer needed a variance in Waterbury in order to build the 2 houses on 1 driveway. And so there was a public hearing, and both of the abutting property owners and the property owner across the street attended that public hearing. One of the property owners asked, what if he bought the property? it would make no difference because by statute, again, this property owner has the right to use that access way. So at least my thought on it is it's better to have something that's more permanent and better built than have a mud hole going up there.
And my last question, do you know if it's the same developer who did those other houses that are just off of
No,
Georgetown?
it's not the same developer.
Okay.
And of course, that's a very good example. There was another right-of-way off of Georgetown Drive, albeit into property located in Watertown, but they built 10 houses over there.
Right.
So the traffic on that, and it's a road as opposed to a driveway. So I think far more intrusive than a driveway will be.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
Just to confirm, this 9,000 square foot parcel would still be part of Watertown, correct?
I'm sorry?
This parcel in question is still going to be part of Watertown?
Correct, and we should be able to tax
So,
it.
and we can enforce
Not
whatever.
that
based
it'll
on
be
that.
worth a lot for tax purposes, but we can get our $100 a year from them.
Thank you.
If I may, through the chair, Mr. Jessel, you mentioned that a certain aspect of emergency services would be provided. Would that be limited to our communications center receiving 911 emergency calls and rerouting them to Waterbury?
Well, I don't think, because again, these houses are located in Waterbury, I think their 911s should go to Waterbury. Again, the address is going to be Waterbury. The address is not going to be Watertown. However, if there's an emergency up there, it's not unlikely that Watertown would want to assist in order to avoid somebody having a real problem. But I think it would be more on a voluntary basis.
Thank you.
Rob?
Through the chair. So I have a couple more questions. Did this have to go in front of planning and zoning?
It does, but it has to get 824 approval, which is simply an approval that it's a planning function, not a zoning function, and that the sale of this property does not violate our plan of conservation and development. It's very limited jurisdiction. And 824, by its terms, allows us to approve it subject to obtaining 824. Now, if it didn't obtain up 824, then it would need to come back here and could be overruled by a 2/3 majority. But again, I've talked to Mark Massoud, and nobody seems to have much reason why we should be keeping this piece. Jerry Lukowski, Paul Benevich, the town engineer, and the water and sewer folks, none of them felt that this was something that we should keep. It's a liability. It's not anything of value.
So the next part of my question is, you were talking in the very beginning about that you didn't believe that we needed a public hearing on this. Am I right by you saying that?
I'm sorry?
That we didn't need to hold a public hearing
No.
on this decision?
Under our policy, we need to hold a public hearing. The motion that was just made is to waive the operation of our policy so that we don't have to have a public hearing.
No, just as
Both
this-
of the abutters and the people across the street are already well aware of what's going on.
I guess I'm concerned over the fact that they're not here. And I wouldn't want it to be where all of a sudden we were making a decision and they didn't know that this was happening on the property up there, and nor do all the people at Georgetown Heights. Like, were they all notified that we were going to have this meeting tonight to
Well,
discuss
no, we
this?
wouldn't normally do that. This is not the first time that the town council has done this. In 2015, we had a parcel of land in Oakville that really, like this, wasn't worth anything except to one property owner. We notified the abutters, we waived the operation of the policy, and we sold it to the abutter.
I guess my concern is with this also is the fact that, I believe Ms. Ryan said, their equipment is going to be going up on our streets that just got repaved to build these new houses. They're not paying any taxes to the town except for that $100 a year, and they're going to be wrecking our streets. And then this is going to add 4, 6 more vehicles coming out into our roads, and they're getting it for free.
Bottom line is,
Can't stop it.
they have an absolute right to use this right-of-way. So we can't stop them from bringing those vehicles in there to build
And
these
there's
houses.
no other way that they could gain access to this. They can't gain
There
access
is
through
absolutely no
Waterbury.
other access to this property. If there had been, then our Planning and Zoning Commission would not have reserved this right-of-way in its subdivision approval. Again, that was the sole purpose for the right-of-way, for this one and the one further to the east on Georgetown Drive, on which a 10-lot subdivision was built.
And through the chair, one last thing is that I just don't feel comfortable with the fact that there's nobody here from this neighborhood, and we have no response from anybody on this neighborhood in what their thought process is.
Well, they went to the hearing. They know all about it.
The Waterbury hearing.
Yeah, but that's where it was all discussed. And all the requirements were gone over.
I think if they're going to be using our property, then they should be coming in front of us to discuss this. And I'll be voting no, so.
Jonathan?
Paul kind of made the same comment that I was gonna make, is if we sell this lot or not, they still have the right to do the same work on it.
I get it.
Ken, do you want to say anything?
Well, yeah, through the chair. Do you have a better print than this, Paul?
No.
Because if we were going to add anything to the motion, I'd like to at least, I can't read it, a date and a revision number, so we know what we're dealing with.
You can refer to it as the map attached to the May 3rd memo.
Okay. Okay.
Through the chair,
Yes.
I'd like to state that I'm in agreement with Mr. Retalic's concerns about none of the neighbors being present before us. I understand they were present at the Waterbury hearing, but I share that concern.
All those in favor?
Hold on there. My concern is that you're going to have Waterbury addresses on these houses, and and there's no access coming in from Waterbury. Now, hopefully, the emergency management people will know how to go up Georgetown or whatever and come in.
Waterbury's well aware of this 2-lot development going in, because they've already been in front of their land use boards. So it's not like it's a secret.
No, I'm not saying it's, I think it's going to be confusing down the road.
But it's again, it's the exact reason why this right-of-way was put in here. I feel as bad for the abutters as everybody else, but they bought lots next to a right-of-way. And, while I feel badly about that, that also wasn't a secret. It's on the map. It's been on the map since 1988. I feel much worse for the people who now have a road servicing 10 lots that goes by than for a driveway that services 2 lots.
So I have one more through the chair. You had mentioned, Paul, that let's say in the event that they have a problem putting in well and septic here, I'm going to assume that the developer did his due diligence. So in the event that they can't do that and they come back, because now they have to buy a $10,000 pump-up system, that would require a public hearing.
Waterbury won't let them.
No.
No, because the only thing it would require is Waterbury. Well, let me start by saying they've already done their deep well tests and their perk tests.
Okay, great.
So they're already approved by the health department to put in well and septic. That's not an issue.
Perfect.
But if it were to come to pass that they had to put in public water and sewer, the first thing that would have to happen is Waterbury would have to agree to allow the town of Watertown to amend the contract, which doesn't exist, to add these 2 houses to our service area. They have stated point blank they will not do that. So we have no power. Even if they wanted to get water and sewer from us, they cannot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No.
Opposed?
How many noes have we got? Raise your hand.
3. And Anthony was a yes.
3 opposed. Okay. The second motion?
Motion passes.
The motion passes.
I move to authorize the sale of real property located at Georgetown Drive, recorded in Watertown Land Records, Book 536, page 128, identified as right-of-way third piece between Lot 14 and 15 for $5,000, subject to planning and zoning, 824 approval, and additionally subject to review of related documents by the town attorney.
And if you would, just add, in
And then-
accordance with the plans attached to the May 3rd, 2024.
I will add to the motion, in accordance with the plans that were submitted to the town attorney, along with some memo, be added to this motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further comments?
I have a comment again.
Yes.
So, again, Attorney Jessel, you said that for the sale for $5,000, but it could possibly be $10,000. Why aren't we going for the
It
$10,000?
couldn't be.
Again, both our policy and our normal way of doing business is that I would talk to the tax assessor. And I did that, and we determined that the value of this property is probably in the $1,500 to $2,500 range. So we thought that $5,000 is double what the parcel is really worth. And we thought the town of Watertown could use $5,000 more than a liability.
I think they could use $10,000.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
No. 1 no. Motion passes. Okay. The police department motion.
Where is it? Here it is. I move
Oh.
that due,
Well,
what's the matter, Mayor?
G.
G, got to do G first.
Where is the,
Tax refunds.
oh, okay.
Consider a resolution.
Consider a resolution I move to authorize an appropriation of $6,294 for tax refunds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. I move to authorize tax refunds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right.
Item I.
Now we got it. I move that due to the critical need to hire staff at the Watertown Police Department Communications Division, the town manager is authorized to proceed with modifying the staffing level of the department to up to 8 full-time staff members and up to 3 part-time staff members. Any budget impact required additional funding will be brought to the town council for further consideration.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second, and the chief, please.
Hi, good evening, Honorable Chairwoman, members of Town Council. You may recall I came before your body a couple months ago with my budget proposal, claiming to be in good shape on our sworn side of the department, but in the communications division, we were struggling to maintain staff, and that in the current model, it was going to be unsustainable moving into the future. Since that time, the crisis has evolved. Our communications supervisor did fairly abruptly retire. Her last day of work was on April 12th. Since then, our deputy chief has been assuming that role almost on a full-time basis, so I've kind of lost my deputy chief in her normal role as operations director of the entire department. And I'll tell you why we're having such a problem. The way the current collective bargaining agreement is structured, The only posting we can ever put for hiring our dispatchers is for part-time staff. The current staffing model allows for, in our current budget, let me say it's our budget more than the contract, allows for 7 full-time dispatchers, one of which is the supervisor. That is the model that you see on the paper I gave to you here that says current staffing model. There was one supervisor. The senior telecommunicator was really just a title with a slight little bit of extra pay, and that was within the contract. And then 5 full-time telecommunicators. That totals up to 7 full-time staff. That supervisor position was really a dispatcher 90% of the time and a supervisor 10% of the time. So we really never had actual supervision of our dispatchers. That 10% of the time was more just for scheduling than it was to actually supervise and do quality control of our dispatch center. In addition to those 7 full-timers, we always attempted to have 5 part-time staff on our roster to fill in all the gaps, and there were a lot of gaps to fill. Since I've been employed with this department in 2019, we have never been able to get up to that number 5. The reason we can only ever hire part-time staff members is because the collective bargaining agreement says that all part-time staff members have the first dibs at any full-time position that becomes available. And that has generally always happened, that when a full-time position became available, there would be an internal posting with our part-time staff, and the person with the most seniority that put in for that position would take the full-time staff. So we were always in a cycle of having to post for and hire only part-time people, which may have worked in years past, but in our current age, we are unable to find the part-time staff that would make this dispatch center work. The last 7 that we have tried to hire have left within 6 months' time. The amount of work that we have to give them has either been too much, the hours have been too crazy. Generally, the part-timers all get the hours that our full-timers don't want. That's the holidays, it's the weekends, it's everything the full-timers take off. There's no consistent schedule. They get plugged into all the holes, and they very quickly realize that the 20 or 30, sometimes even 40 hours a week that we're mandating them work really isn't a part-time job. It's more of a full-time job without the benefits, and it's all the least desirable shifts, and then they depart. And we've been stuck in a continuous training cycle for years now trying to staff our dispatch center. What we really need to look for are personnel that want to be in our communication center for a career, not for a part-time job. The original proposal, which you see on the bottom of the first page here, was looking to move to 9 full-time telecommunicators and a supervisor who would be a full-time supervisor. That was a jump from our current staffing model, which was around $640,000, to about $100,000 jump up to $740,000. Where we landed was in the middle a bit, with a full-time communication supervisor in addition to the 7 full-time telecommunicators, and keeping the 5 part-timers, and that put us around $715,000. What I am proposing now to try and get us out of this immediate crisis is to keep that full-time communication supervisor position in the budget and staff it after July 1st, when and if we all hope the budget referendum passes and we can fund this position. And then to employ 8 full-time telecommunicators and 3 part-time. That would actually reduce the police department's operational cost for personnel by $5,000 over the previous town council recommended budget, so we would be within your recommended budget. That is, of course, fringe benefits aside. To try and get us out of the immediate crisis that we're in, we posted just 2 weeks ago for any certified dispatcher to invite them to apply, because we are trying to reduce the amount of time it takes to train. bringing in someone with no experience is a minimum of 4 months in training before we can ever put them on the console by themselves. That's a long time. We did get 3 applications of full dispatchers who are full-time in other dispatch centers that are certified by the state of Connecticut, but they're looking for full-time hours. They're looking to leave their current employer and come to Watertown. One of them is local and lives in Watertown, would like to be home in their hometown. Another one and the other 2 have direct connections to Watertown and would prefer to work here. But they don't want to stay in that part-time role. So we currently have 1 full-time position available to hire. What I'm asking for is to create a second full-time position to hire so we can bring these individuals in on a full-time basis and keep them and try to get out of this constant training environment where people come in, train, and depart within 4 to 6 months' time after they realize the job isn't for them. The cost, I believe, is minimal. I can tell you right now, our overtime in this particular fiscal year is probably going to be double what's been appropriated. We had $65,000 appropriated for overtime, and we are currently $25,000 already in the red, with us projecting to end this year out around $57,000 in the red in overtime because of the staffing shortage. In the next 4 weeks, we have 32 8-hour shifts that need to get filled by forcing our current dispatchers to work extra hours. Almost all of them are working 12-hour shifts right now to keep our public safety communications center open. So it's certainly having an impact on morale. We do need to take quick action on this. Be certainly happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Questions? Rob?
Comment. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, Chief, I guess it's really not a question, it's more of a statement. Then I have to totally agree with you that this is a career now. It's not somebody who was injured as it was years ago that would just go in and fill a position, answer a telephone. These are skilled employees now that have to go through schooling to do this, who have to be signed off on the Federal Bureau of Investigations to look up records. It's no longer an easy job, computerized, beyond my scope. The only thing that I ask is that you do as a department, and I say it multiple times for other agencies in town, I think it's seriously time that you look at other towns around here to consolidate with. Holding on to your own communications center, you'll never survive it because it's going to continue to go up higher and higher and higher as you go and you move in, say, a Thomaston and a Middlebury in and have a joint communication center. It truly lowers your costs. And you get money from the state of Connecticut. If you have 3 towns that get together and run a communication center for those 3 towns, the state of Connecticut will fund you. So there's free money out there if you get 3 other towns to do that. And I ask that you form a committee within that police department to seriously look into that because it works. That model does work.
Yeah, we have seen that occurring in a couple other areas of the state of Connecticut, and the town manager and I have already been in discussions to keep that open as an option, because we do have a 3rd fully functional dispatch station within our division that could be helpful in that case.
Through the chair. Chief, in looking at the proposal, one thing very important that I really like is the full-time communications supervisor will be in a different union. In the past, the communications supervisor was the same union.
Yes.
It would cause problems in investigating matters of a union employee of which union they were in. And in the previous role that I was in, is the deputy now, in overseeing communications, it ended up that I myself would have to conduct internal investigations to a closure. And I could see the problem is with the deputy doing that, but with a communications supervisor doing our own investigations, working out aspects of what went right, what went wrong, There will be no union issues, no conflict. I like it.
Yes, sir, and we, working with the town manager, we have got preliminary agreements by both the dispatchers union to forego that position and for the supervisors union to assume it.
Anybody else?
Someone could turn off.
Go ahead.
Quick question. Right now, we're losing a lot of the part-time people because they kind of get the worst shifts, the holidays, that type of thing. If we were ever in this scenario where we only had full-time dispatchers, are holidays and those types of things still determined on seniority, or is there a different method in place?
Yeah, generally speaking, vacations, according to collective bargaining agreement, if they submit their vacations work on the fiscal year, not on the calendar year, if they submit their vacations prior to October 15th for the rest of that fiscal year, they'll get locked in regardless of their seniority. After that, it's first come, first served basis upon their submittal and any conflicts, seniority rules.
Thank you.
Yep.
Gary?
Yep.
You said you're going to eliminate the senior telecommunicator and just have the supervisor?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, how did you come up with the 85,000? I see you're going from 64,000 to 85,000.
Yeah, that's that's what we put into our budget as we want to attract a good person into this position. Felt that the $64,000 that was in the previous contract, where they really were dispatcher 90% of the time and a supervisor 10% of the time, is a really low number to try and attract an employee of the caliber that we're looking for into that position.
Marion, one more.
Anybody else?
One more.
Yes.
Through the chair. How many do you need to run a full-time staff? Because you're still counting on your part-timers, correct, in this?
Correct. So so our communications center, which is housed in the police department and under the purview of the chief of police, right now we have a minimum staffing around the clock, 24/7, 365 of 2 dispatchers at all times. They work a kind of an odd schedule. Their contract calls for them to work 5 on, 2 off, 5 on, 2 off, 5 on, 2 off, and then 5 on, 3 off. If we were to make entirely full-time staff, we would need 9 to always have 2 persons in the chairs. Because it would basically take 3 dispatchers hired to always put 2 on there. And of course, we have 3 separate shifts that we have to staff. I think it would be wise right now to experiment in only having 8 full-timers and then a few part-timers to fill in the holes. We would staff it where we had 3 full-timers on days and 3 full-timers on the midnight shift, and staff the evening shift with 2 full-timers, and then use the 3 part-timers to fill in the holes on the evening shift, as well as days taken off by day shift and midnight shift full-time staff, including sick time, vacation time, personal days.
I guess that's my point, is that you have to fill in, you're using your part-timers, and I'm not telling you your business, but you're using your part-timers for normal shifts, plus you're gonna use your part-timers to fill in for vacation and sick and things like that. I would be one person who'd be totally in favor for you of going to total full-time staff, so.
Well, I'll be back
You have my
next year
vote for
asking for that.
Don't wait a year.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else?
I have a question.
Yeah, I'm sort of like in the favor with Rob there that, with the call volumes that have increased over the past probably 10 years or so. I know the fire department's gone from like 700 calls to like over 3,000. And I know the police department's call volume's been up quite a bit too. So, and I think it's, best for the whole town that we do have more full-time dispatchers. And like, same thing, too bad, if we can be like a regional dispatch center, I think that'd be nice too.
Do I understand that Anthony wants to comment?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Hi, Chief. My question is based off of what Jonathan's question was. If we go full-time is there a chance, based on the collective bargaining agreement, that everyone will put in for the same holiday? And we'll be required to let everyone off in that same holiday?
No, sir. According to the wording in the collective bargaining agreement now, we do not have to allow any of the dispatchers a holiday leave. Operational demands can allow the chief of police or the supervisor to deny that request.
Okay, so we shouldn't have that scenario if this were the route that we eventually take.
That's correct.
Thank you.
I have a question. How soon are the individuals that have applied available to you?
We plan on giving them a conditional offer tomorrow. They'll have to go through a background check first before we can bring them on. Then they would have to give a 2-week notice to that employer, so I'm thinking we're about 4 weeks out of bringing them on board.
So you still have a month to get through.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, one more. Does your background check include a police officer going out and interviewing them, and neighbors and all that?
Not for dispatchers. We do that for sworn personnel. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
I move to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussion pending litigation for 2 matters. 1, Fairways and Greens LLC versus Town of Watertown tax appeal, and 2, City of Waterbury versus the Town of Watertown. In attendance will be the town council members present, the town attorney, and the town manager.
We have a second?
I gotta add the other piece to it.
No, you did it.
Oh, she added it? Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, let's go.
Recording stopped.
Losing my mind.